Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the See You on the Trail podcast. My name is Hitch, and I will be taking care of you today. We've got a great person on the show today, but before we get to that, I do want to talk about how you guys can share us and help us grow this podcast, our channel, everything. We want to start out with we're on about 10 different platforms: Facebook, YouTube. We're based off of Anchor. Anchor.com. You can look us up on there for See You on the Trail podcast. You can look there. We're on Spotify, Apple. We're on all of them. Just look us up. You'll be able to find us. If you can't find us, please send me an email at seeyouonthetrail@gmail.com, and I will get you to the right spot. With my cookies and stuff on my computer, the name pops up really easily. But if you haven't searched for us before, then it might be a little bit harder for your device, your iPad, your phone, your computer. So anyway, we're deep in the heart of SEMA right now. I'm recording this right now, and this is Thursday of SEMA on the 7th of November. How many of you have been to SEMA? Did you like it? Are you going to go back? I went in 2010, 2014, 2016, and 2017. I do enjoy going. It's a lot of fun. You also get to see a lot of new stuff coming out, and you just kind of have to look for it instead of bypassing all the bro trucks. But anyway, were you at SEMA this year, or are you at SEMA right now? Maybe driving home. What was your favorite car, or what was your favorite activity there? They have places where you can ride and drift cars. Last time I was there in 2017, I actually got to ride go out to VOR, which is Vegas Off-Road Experience, and drive basically a pro light style car on a short course. Got to do like 5 laps with Hollywood Kenny Forbes. Turtle Wax took care of us on that. There's a video on my YouTube page. If you go check it out, you can see where we actually got to ride and drive. Kenny rode co-driver once, and then I drove, and then Kenny drove and I co-drove. It was a lot of fun. I'd love to go back and do it again. I want to thank Turtle Wax for doing that for us. But anyway, make sure you go like us on Facebook. Facebook is where we're the most active. Go check us out there. We're on Instagram as well, and also on Twitter, so you can check us out there, but mainly YouTube and Facebook. So go check us out. But let's get straight to the interview. Next interview is with Easy Pops. For those of you that were on Pirate years and years and years ago when it was really popular, Easy Pops, that's Mr. Gene Mooneyham. He is I like to call him Mean Gene Mooneyham, but he's far from mean. But he's been a friend of mine, and you'll get to know a little bit more about him. He's got a pretty rich history. He did admit he's 67 years old, and he's been racing since he said he got behind the car on a racetrack for the first time when he was 17 years old. But I'm going to go ahead and jump off there. He's been with Ultra 4. He's helped his son race, Rick. He also has another son named Matthew he'll talk a little bit about. And just let you know, these guys are just badass people that I have encountered throughout my years in doing stuff with Ultra 4, Dirt Riot, off-road racing in general. And I feel that his story needed to be told. So go check out, actually just stay right here, because next up is the interview with Gene Mooneyham, Easy Pops. Enjoy, guys. Guys, we're here with he's got the name Easy Pops, and I like to call him Mean Gene, but he's way far. He's about the farthest away from mean you'll ever get to. Mr. Gene Mooneyham, how you doing today, sir?
Great, Hitch. How about you?
I'm doing good. I'm watching SEMA happen, and it's I kind of want to be there, but yet I don't.
I understand.
Vegas takes it out of you, you know. So, but anyway, well, let's. A lot of you don't know. If you don't know Gene, you haven't been an Ultra 4 ever. Gene's son Rick was a big part of starting. He was one of the first racers for King of the Hammers, and then Gene moved in. And I know you have a pretty big history on racing in general. You're the godfather of you're the godfather of racing, from what I've understand, from what I've heard. Is that true?
I think that's overblown a little bit, Alan.
Well, let's start out. When did you get the bug to start racing? How old were you? And tell us how that started.
Oh, let's see. I think we started going to the races when I was about 3 years old. My dad was running a drag car at the time, a 32 sedan Ford, and we just it seemed like we did drag racing every weekend. It seemed like for most of my life.
No joke. When was the first time you got behind the car or behind the wheel?
Oh, let's see. That was, I guess I was 18.
Wow. Okay. And was it a drag car or was it an off-road car?
Oh, drag car.
Drag car. And you did that for how long?
Oh, wow. Up until, this is a 73.
Wow.
1973, I guess. I was 21 years old. That just became a mechanic more than a driver.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I talked to one of your friends, Mr. Shearer, Jason, and I asked him. I said, "Hey, is there any good questions I needed to ask you that he had?" And he had a few, which we'll wait till later in the podcast to talk about. But he mentioned your dad, and your dad's was racing for a long time. Tell us a little bit of history about your dad.
He actually started. Let's see, when he was 19 years old, in 1949, drag racing and running at the Salt Flats and up at Adelanto.
Wow. Now, are you guys the Mooneyham of the Mooneyham blowers? Is that you guys were building blowers at one point in time?
Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, Jason mentioned John Force was a good friend, and you guys did a lot with him in the drag racing industry.
Oh yeah, he was a customer for like 20 years.
Wow, that's neat. I got to meet him at SEMA a couple years ago. Him and his daughter, they were neat people.
Yeah,
but
he's an unusual character, but he's a good guy.
I got you. Now,
I've actually known him actually before he got into drag racing.
What was he doing before that?
He was a truck driver for a while, and he and I actually worked together at his brother Louis. His father-in-law owned a gas station out in Santa Fe Springs, and we both worked there together. And he was one of his cousins was one of my best friends, so I knew him long before.
Wow,
drag racing.
That's neat. That's very cool. Now, let's move on throughout the history here. What was when you went from drag racing and then you started doing more mechanic work? When did you actually start getting into the dirt scene? When did you like that?
I've always, well, let's see, I guess when I was in the service at Fort Carson, Colorado, I had an old scout that I'd go wheeling with some friends that also had old scouts. I guess it started back, I don't know, it was about 21 or 22.
Oh, wow. Okay. Now you mentioned said you were in the service. What branch of the military were you in, and how long were you in for?
I got drafted into the Army.
Oh, wow.
I was actually going to college at the time. I wanted to be a physician, and so when they found that out at the draft center, they told me, "Well, we'll make you a medic," and they just happened to have a shortage of medics at Fort Carson, so they said, "Well, we're going to send you to Fort Carson rather than Vietnam." I thought, well, okay, sounds good.
And how long were you
there?
Yeah, and how long were you in for?
I did my 2 years, and then they asked me to stay for another year, so I stayed for one more year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I did 3 years.
Very cool. So you started doing off-road wheeling and stuff, 21, 22 years old. And then Yeah, I mean, you obviously you had it. You had. I know you've got Rick as one son. Who else do you have? Who else, do you have any other kids in the family?
I do. My other son's name is Matthew.
Okay. And then are you married still, or were you married, or what was did?
No, I've been married. I'm not any longer.
Sounds like that's my history too. Oh, but did Matthew get into it as well, or?
No, we've all had quads and sand rails, motorcycles, off-road stuff since they were young. Both he and Matt and Rick. But we've been doing something in the dirt for a long time.
So they grew up in the dirt and wheeling and having fun.
Yep.
That's very cool. Now, go on a little bit farther into it. I mean, about the time that I actually started to get to know who you were was, well, on Pirate, of course. You were Easy Pops on Pirate 4x4. And, and what was it Rick that kind of got into was he doing XRA, or did he just jump right into King of the Hammers?
No, he was doing, I'm not sure which organization that he was doing rock crawling exhibit deals with, but it had to be one that Dave Cole was aligned with, because I met him at one of the events that Rick was at.
Mm-hmm. And then he didn't
do that for very long before he decided to do the King of the Hammers.
I gotcha.
Right.
And then how did you end up? You ended up volunteering for the longest time and working for actually Ultra 4 in general. What was your first race that you did with Ultra 4, or did you actually go watch one first?
Well, I went to watch one when Rick ran his first one was in 08, and then he told me about it, and I said, okay, I'll go watch this thing. And so I went out there in 09, and I just happened to run into Sean Bootsman. He was talking to me. He asked, hey, you want to volunteer to help out do some things? And I said, yeah, sure, why not? So that's how I got started.
Gotcha.
Did it for 10 years.
Yeah, you did it for a long time. Now, I'll tell you what. Do you actually? I do this with everybody. I've done it with everybody that I've done a podcast with. Do you remember the first time that you met me and I met you?
Oh, geez. I'm trying to think.
Well, the funny thing is that with Levi, I met him around a campfire at KOH, and I asked him if he knew this girl, and he goes, "Yeah, I used to date her sister." And I was like, "Well, I dated her," which was really funny.
Wow.
And he goes, "Why are we 1,200 miles away from each other? I mean, away from our home, and I know who you are," kind of thing. And it was really funny. With you, the first time I went out to KOH, I went with Derek West, because that's who kind of got me into it, helping him rebuild that car that burnt. And 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 Derek said, "Hey man, you need to volunteer during the LCQ." I said, "Okay, I'll volunteer." And we were at the bottom of back door, and you volunteered and just pointed me out and said, "Go to the top of short bus and stay there as relay." And I looked at short bus and went, "That's not that far up there." No, it's a long hike up to short bus from back door.
Sorry about that, Alan.
It was funny because I go, "Who is that guy? Who's the guy with the beard and everything?" And they're like, "Oh, that's Easy Pops. That's Gene. That's Rick's dad." I was like, "Well, I guess he's serious, so I guess I got to get all the way up there." So, and I found a spot up there where I was blocked from the wind, and I had to relay because back then our radios weren't good enough to go over short bus to get back to camp.
Yeah, you are doing an important job up there, buddy.
Yeah, I remember that because what's the guy that Dennis, is that his name? Dennis? No, yeah, he's the guy that the Rock Her Red Bull buggy. It's the guy's wife that raced, that was doing We Rock with it.
Oh, geez.
I'm drawing a blank.
Justin Webster?
Yes, Dustin Webster. Because it was so new that we really didn't have live coverage. Well, we had it, but it really wasn't great. And he was actually announcing everything going on the radio, and it was actually broadcast over live feed, and he was announcing who was going through just on the radio. And I thought that was hilarious. It was neat because I got him. I was probably at the top. I was at the top of short bus, and I was only like 15, 20 feet from each racer that came by. And it was neat to be up there at some place that I'll probably never be again. I really don't want to be up there again, but it was definitely a bucket list deal. So I'm glad you put me up there. So
okay, all right, good. I'm still mad about that.
No, not at all, man. It's that's one thing I love about Ultra 4 and KOH. Whether you're a volunteer, a racer, a mechanic, an organizer, for the most part, you just get up and do. You don't ask questions. You just do it to help out the sport, which I think is really neat about the sport.
Yeah.
So, but now what did you do for why you were like from 08 you started? Well, that'd have been 2011 KOH when I met you. From 2011 to now, what kind of stuff do you basically did a lot of the logistics of organizing the race itself there at the park, right?
Oh, at there at Johnson Valley?
Yeah, Johnson Valley or any of the races that you were at.
Oh, yeah, we did more course setup, putting out the flags and moving tires around.
So you were out
kind of setting up the pit areas, staging the cars, doing tech on the cars.
Wow. Yeah, because you were out there. Well, during KOH, you were probably out there, what, 2-3 weeks prior and a week after, probably?
Most of the time, 3 or 4 weeks.
Jeez. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And the people that are listening, and probably some of them have never been to Johnson Valley in general, but this place just blows up. And for what, I guess 10 days now is what it's getting to. 10 days, it turns into a mini city. So
yes, it does. Yes.
I mean,
there's a lot of logistics. There's a lot of things going on out there that people don't realize. They're looking at how much bicycle fence and cyclone fence and the snow fence we have to put up to keep spectators off the race course and make the BLM happy. There's a lot of things going on out there that just behind the scenes that a lot of people just don't think about.
Yeah, a friend of mine, I'm sure you know him, Todd Stauffer from Custom Splice. He's been out there a couple times to help, and to see him, he's running a ditcher or whatever you want to call it, like to go ahead and run electricity, and then also you've got a survey boy out there, and he's setting up the parking and the streets, and it's just it amazed me the first year I went in 2011 because Derek just kind of threw me into it. He took me to SEMA, and then on the way back from SEMA, he said, "Hey, you want to go to King of the Hammers?" And I'm like, 2 bucket lists in 3 months? Heck yeah, I'll do it. So, yeah. And that's what really got me hooked, and I've been hooked ever since. But anyway, so now let's go on. You're with KOH. You were with Ultra 4 for a while, and then one of the times that I remember hearing your name a whole bunch was came from Will Gentile, and apparently you found a GoPro out in the desert.
Yes, one that it was off of Lauren Healy's car when he crashed.
Yeah, tell that story a little bit more in detail. I'm sure a lot of people would like to hear it.
Well, we were out actually doing course marking, and for some reason I just happened to look. I was co-driving with one of our guys in one of the side-by-sides, and I just happened to see something glint, and it was actually a mirror that I saw. So I had him stop, and I went over and looked at it and picked it up, and then I saw a GoPro there. I picked it up and brought it back, and it sat there for a day or two before I set it on the counter in my motorhome and kind of forgot about it. And then I opened it up, and I saw Will's name and phone number in there, so I called him and told him, "Hey, I found your GoPro," and he was very appreciative, I guess you could say. I I didn't think it was that big a deal, but he kind of made it look it was a big deal.
Right. And so what ended up being on the story behind it is he lost it whenever Lauren wrecked really bad in what was it, the Red Dragon that he wrecked in? Is that what it was?
I don't remember which car it was now, tell you the truth, Alan.
It was either the Red Dragon or it was the Jimmy's IFS car. It was one of the IFS cars. Yeah. And he wrecked. He took like 6 or 7 rolls, and they lost one GoPro out of the deal. And this was the GoPro set out in the desert for a year untouched, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, and then they were able to get the footage back. I'll have to ask Will if the GoPro is still usable. So, but if you go to Heavy Metal Concepts YouTube page, you can search on there and look for it, and it'll actually show the lost footage of when he lost it on it, which I thought was really neat that you actually caught that, and it had been sitting out there for a whole year. That's crazy.
Yeah, so, it was kind of amazing just to have a chance to see it there.
Yeah, that's nuts. So now the next, I guess we'll go ahead and move on. You went on from Ultra 4, and then you started doing some racing of your own, didn't you?
I did. I raced I've got a Legends car that I raced in a few of our races when I got a chance. But now I've got a Class 5 car, Class 5000, that I've done a few races in, and it's more fun. I think a little more. Just fun, I guess.
Yeah.
Basically.
Now, for those of us that, I mean, and I'm not real good on defining classes, the Class 5000, can you explain that class a little bit so we know more of what kind of car you got?
Okay. It's basically a Baja Bug, an all-tube chassis car with a 2.4 Chevy X-Tech motor in it, which is the limit on the motor size, and 35-inch tires with a Mendiol 5-speed transmission.
Really? So it's a VW Bug body, or is it?
Most of it is.
Yeah, but yours isn't.
No, the hoods, the hood's fiberglass, the sides are aluminum. They're kind of skinned like a Volkswagen.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, because I know you've been doing that, and I think I've seen maybe 1 or 2 pictures of it, but I also get them mixed up when JT races his little Bug too, like at Nor and stuff. So yeah. But so you've been racing that. How many races have you done with that car?
Let's see, 3, I think.
Really?
3 with it.
How'd you end up doing? Did you finished at least?
I finished. Yeah, I did. The last one was the Silver State 300, and I had a steering issue. I kept breaking the bolt that was holding the steering ram on, so I'd lose power steering. I finished the race to the last 57 miles without power steering.
Nice.
But there were probably 30 more miles in between pits where I'd break it. I'd have to drive it with no power steering to the pits. But I did finish third. Well, with three cars in the class, but I did finish it on time, and I felt good about that.
Very good. Yeah, you don't ever tell how many cars are in the class, because you got third place.
Well, I'll be honest about it.
Very cool. Yeah.
But I did finish in time, so that was.
Yep.
I was happy about that. We did. Hit that race was brutal because I took a 30-mile-an-hour turn about 50 mile an hour without power steering and hit a gigantic rock and launched the car. Luckily, the car saved itself. We just had to replace the tire wheel and motor on.
Now, have you ever co-drove with your son, with Rick?
No, he co-drove with me in Parker. We ran the Parker. Which race was it? One of those the shorter races. The Blue Water Classic, I think, is what it was at the time.
Oh, okay, cool. Now, speaking of co-driving, I asked Mr. Jason Shearer, and he said, I asked him, I said, hey, what would be some good questions to ask Gene? And he said, have you ever gotten 5 flats when co-driving with Jason Shearer? You want to divulge on that story? What happened there and where was it?
Well, it was okay. We were driving Class 11. That actually belonged to Greg from Rugged Radios. Jason was driving. I was co-driving, and we'd gone, I don't know, maybe 50 miles, and I said something like, well, it's kind of amazing. We hadn't had any tire trouble. I mean, within like 30 seconds, we had a flat. And so we had Adam McGow was chasing behind us in a side-by-side. And he had another spare. We had a spare with us, and he had another spare. And we just kept losing tires. By the time we got to the pits, everything was flat.
Oh, jeez.
All 5 tires.
So did Jason say?
Was a little upset with us, but it all worked out.
That's funny. So has Jason ever co-drove with you ever again?
No, he didn't ask me back again.
That's funny. I didn't realize you guys had a pretty rich history. The next question that he asked me to ask you was, have you ever fallen into a pool cover while drinking with Jason Shearer?
I recall that happened one time, yes.
And then he did ask him. He mentioned your dad, and that's why I talked to you about it. Jason's a good dude, man. I think it's really cool that he's going to be able to drive that new Bronco for Baja.
Yeah, that's what I heard. It's good for him. He's a very talented driver.
He's a talented guy. He's a talented driver, and he's very well spoken. And man, I did whenever I did the interview with him with the podcast, this last podcast that we did, I had a lot of people comment and go, "Man, he did a really good job of not letting you talk." Which I thought was, I was like, "Hey, that's perfectly fine." He told his story, and now everybody knows a little bit more about Mr. Shearer. So,
yeah.
I talked to his brother a couple days ago. He's actually doing well, but he's still trying to recover from nationals. So.
Yeah, I never did hear what happened. I've been in contact with Casey, checking up on him, but I never saw what happened or heard what happened to him.
Yeah, he was in practice. They were practicing, and that's why it never showed up on live feed. But did you watch the live feed? Did you kind of know the layout of the track? There's a short rock course, and there's a short rock area, and then it goes to a longer rock area, and that's where the start finish line is.
Yeah.
And he was one of the first guys to try to clear the first rock section, which was shorter, and he overshot it, and it threw him into like 4 or 5 flips end over end.
Oh wow!
But I talked to him. He's pretty frustrated right now because he had to get a lot of. He tried to get a lot of. He had to get his back fused, and he's probably going to be out of the racing for the rest of his life. But we're in talks to where he's still going to be in the industry. He's just not going to be able to get behind a car again, behind a driver's seat again. So
right, that's what he told me.
Yeah, it's a real bummer because he's a talented driver just like his brother. So.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah, he sent me pictures of his all the stuff that cleared in his back, all the hardware. Oh man.
Oh yeah.
That does look bad.
It's like I told him though. I said, at least you're alive, man. It sucks, but at least you're alive and everything's going well. So that was the main thing for him. What's the future for Gene Mooneyham?
It's uncertain. I'm probably going to run that 5 car for a few more years till I'm 67 years old, so it's time to start thinking about maybe scaling back on my stupid activities that are dangerous. But as long as my health is good and I'm enjoying it, I'm going to keep doing it until I get the sense knocked out of me again.
Yeah.
Think about quitting.
Well, I hope I'm exactly that way. I'm about 27 years behind you, but I hope I'm the same exact way whenever I get to be there because it's. I think there's been numerous people that have memed you pretty good about you're still out there doing stuff that 20 and 30-year-olds are still doing and having trouble.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was Alan Johnson or Will Gentile. I'm not sure who did that, but they did a really good job of that.
Which one was that?
Oh, all the memes that they've been putting you in.
Oh, yeah, that's mostly Alan.
Yeah, Alan's
Alan Johnson. Yeah, I don't know why he likes making fun of me so much, but he's a good guy too.
Well, and I don't think it's just you. He doesn't differentiate. He doesn't. He'll make fun of anybody he can.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, he's taking on a job at Ultra 4 too, which I'm enthused to see what he ends up doing. I mean, seems to be he did real good with Let's Roll Off Road and all that, and then he had to move to Fayetteville and taking care of his family. I think is what the deal was. His mom and his dad, and
yeah.
but yeah, he's taken on a big a big job with Ultra 4, which I applaud him for.
Yeah,
So.
he's probably going to do well at it. But he usually does good work.
Gene, man, I really appreciate it hanging out and talking with me. I know a lot of people. They know your name, they know your face, but they don't know anything about you. Is there now where are you living now, and what are you doing?
I live in Lake Havasu City, Arizona. Let's see. I play golf 5 days a week. And work on my race cars. It's pretty much it.
Now you say race cars, and you talked about your class. You said 5 or 7? Can't remember.
Class 5.
Class 5. What else? What other race cars you got?
I still got the Legends car that I bought in 2013.
Okay, what I didn't. Well, you mentioned that you race Legends. What kind of car is this?
It was built by actually one of Jason Shearer's friends. It's just I don't know, he modeled it after my son Rick's design car, so it looks a lot like one of Rick's cars. It's got an LS3, hopped up LS3, and just all the good stuff on it.
Nice. So are you planning on doing Ultra? Are you going to race Ultra 4 with that, or are you just going to keep it, or are you going to do maybe dirt rides with it?
I haven't decided for sure what I was going to do with that. I was kind of toying with the idea of selling it because I do take it out in rock crawl with my friends out here, but some of them are older than I am, and they're kind of scaling back and quitting, so it's kind of not much fun, and some of the younger guys aren't that much fun to wheel with out there.
I got you. I noticed that there's a lot of cars out there for sale right now. I've been actually I'm amazed at how many. I noticed Shannon or Waylon put his up for sale, and then Clay Gilstrap just put his up for sale. And then I've got one. It's a friend of mine's. It used to be Travis Watford's car, and then BJ Allen raced it for a while, and then a friend of mine here in Oklahoma, he bought it, and then he ended up taking Rob Hartman's car, bought it, and he's trying to sell that car. And then I noticed there's been a lot of cars swapping hands and going up for sale. You might want to hang on to yours for a little bit longer till that market goes back down. So, but as long as it's sitting in a garage, it ain't hurt nothing sitting there. So.
Oh no.
But
that's for sure.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you taking the time out. I'm sure everybody wanted to know about Easy Pops and how he's doing. And I guess when do you have any new races coming up that you're planning on racing here soon?
I'm going to do the I believe it's Snore race, Southern Nevada off road over in Laughlin. It's in the middle of December 13th to 15th or something like that. I'm going to do it in the 5 car.
Oh, okay, very cool. And yeah, you don't have any I mean, you've got Facebook as a personal, but you don't have any kind of. Do you have a race page at all or anything like that that people can follow you on?
No.
Okay. I
I'm not that savvy with the
well,
all this stuff. So.
yeah, I sent you a message on Facebook and asked you if you want to do a podcast, and you're like, I don't even know what a podcast is. Which you're probably better off not knowing what one is anyway, because you will deep dive into that. And I'm actually surprised that the podcasts are just trying to take off now, because like I talked to Levi Shirley on his podcast or on the podcast with him, and he goes, man, I drove 52 hours to Reno or something like that. He started adding up all the time that he was behind the wheel, and that's what got him interested in podcasts, because it gave him something to do while he was driving.
Oh,
so
that's good.
Yeah, and I'm like, why aren't people doing this more? And it's catching on. Yeah. And we've got, like I said, there's a couple podcasts out there that are doing something similar to what I'm doing. Jim Beavers is one that I would suggest you listen to. You'd probably like his stuff. But anyway, man, I sure do appreciate it. I hope to see you here soon. Not sure when I'm gonna be out to the West Coast, and I don't know. I guess they're just having a side-by-side race there in Davis, which is near my house in Davis, Oklahoma. So I may not see you for, huh?
I didn't know that they were going to have a side-by-side race there.
Yeah, it's just a side-by-side race, no Ultra 4. But it's the Ultra 4 series that is organizing it, but it's only a side-by-side race. So I kind of thought was kind of weird, but it is what it is. I'm not I just look at the information and go with it. So,
yeah.
But
I understand.
Huh?
I said I understand.
Yep. I may make it out to KOH. Are you going to try to make it out there since you've retired from Ultra 4? Are you going to go out there and just enjoy it?
I probably got to go out there and watch qualifying and maybe the start of the race. That's kind of the plan right now, but I mean, I don't know. I might stay longer.
Yeah, it is.
I gotta see all my racer friends. I miss them, and a lot of them tell me they miss seeing me at the races. So you gotta kind of keep in touch with them.
Oh yeah, no, that's one thing I've actually learned. Like I said, I've been involved in it since 2010, and I've met more friends that I keep a really tight touch with that live 1,200 miles away from me. You don't lose friends in that industry for the most part. Everybody's usually very, very cool and very, very nice. So, anyway, well, thanks, man. I do appreciate it. I guess I'm going to go ahead and jump off here and let you go. Well, it's only almost 8 o'clock at your house. It's almost 10 at mine. So,
yeah,
I won't go to
8:38.
Yeah, I won't go to bed till probably about midnight anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. But I do appreciate it. Thank you, Gene, and I hope everybody enjoys the podcast. And thank you very much, man. We'll talk to you again.
Okay, thanks, Alan. Appreciate you promoting me, brother.
Anytime, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, thank you, Mr. Gene Mooneyham, for that interview. Love talking to you. Love hanging out with you. With you living in Lake Havasu and me being in Oklahoma, it's kind of hard to sit down and talk and get to know each other a little bit better. And I'm glad we had that time to talk. Guys, go check him out. I'll definitely be sharing his race he's got in December. I'll be sharing some of his updates on there, and also check out his son's page. Trick Toy Fab, Rick Mooneyham. He's been around the industry for a long time as well. We named off a lot of people in that situation, and you're a good guy. Thank you very much for sitting down and talking with me. Next, I'm trying to get more of a schedule going with our podcast, but with SEMA, with Nationals, and then prep for KOH, it's hard to nail down some of these guys. I've got plans for 3 or 4 other people right now currently, but trying to nail them down while they're busy and trying to make their race career legit, to say the least, is very hard to do. So if you have anybody that you'd like to hear on the podcast and sit down and talk with me, please don't hesitate to comment on YouTube or on Facebook, and we can make that happen. Um, Guys, don't forget, share this podcast with all your friends. Um, let people know that Ultra 4 Dirt Riot off-road racing is still going strong. There's maybe 4 or 5 actual small podcasts, decent sized podcasts that are out there that are promoting off-road racing, and I encourage you to promote all of them. There's no competition, no problems with that. I would check out Jim Beavers would be one of them. I would check out. He posts a lot with. Usually he does some Monster Jam stuff, but he also does Pro 2, Pro 4, Pro Light stuff, and then you've also got the Talent Tank, which basically zeroes in on the Ultra 4 crowd, kind of like our podcast does. Make sure you guys go listen to all of them. They're all great interviews. We actually try not to cross interview. In other words, if one's already been interviewed, we try to go to the next one, and we work together on that. So it's a good deal. But anyway, don't forget, we are on Apple Podcast. We are on Google. We are on Radio Public. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. The link will be listed on Twitter as well. Go back and look at some of our past guests we've had. Our last guest we had last month was Jason Shearer, one of the 3-time champions. He's the only back-to-back winner, in fact. So go check him out. We've got Levi Shirley, Armando Verduga from Artec Industries. Artec is coming together with a lot of new stuff and innovative stuff for your trail rigs, and you can talk to him about that and listen to him. Also did one with old Jay Aiken. Jay is a up-and-comer. I would say he's not technically, he will be, actually he's a rookie this year for Ultra 4, but he has been racing in Dirt Riot for the past year or so. So check that out. Check all our past ones out. We've got about 7 or 8 out right now. And you guys get to know everybody after the green flag flies or after the checker flag flies. You get to know them more personally, and it does tend to help you find somebody that you like cheering for. So do that. Other than that, guys, post some of your SEMA photos underneath on Facebook, underneath the podcast. We'd love to see them. I'd like to see what your favorite one was, your favorite rig or your favorite activity there. And I know, don't say extracurricular activities like drinking and stuff. I want to see more about SEMA. I know that's what Vegas is all about, but this week it's all about SEMA. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. We're going to try to push up the schedule a little bit and maybe do every 2 weeks if we can. At this point in time, we're still doing just one a month, one podcast a month. Trying to make sure that we get the best interview possible and spending the most time with it. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. My name's Hitch, and I'm with See You on the Trail. And yes, I'll see you on the trail.